Hi, I'm Cindi McGee, and you're watching Polymer Clay TV. Today I'm creating a modified Mokume Gane technique featuring the beautiful shades of a peacock. Let's get started. I conditioned and rolled my clay in the pasta machine to a setting number 2 and then cut equal size pieces. I'm using gold, black, and purple Primo Sculpey, string bean Sculpey 3, turquoise, and ultramarine blue hue Primo. I wanted to add a little glitz, and to do that I'm using the Peacock collection of color fuse from Create Along. And I'm going to add a layer to the top of the ultramarine blue, turquoise, and the green clay. Now it's helpful to get the excess color fuse back in the jar if you put a piece of scrap paper beneath the clay before you apply it. I'm just sprinkling it on, and then I gave it a little press with my finger. As you can see, I used the closest matching color of color fuse to the clay base that I was using, but you certainly could mix them up if you wanted to. Once I had that color fuse added to each of those 3 layers, it was time to begin layering all the pieces together. Now for the next step you can layer them any way you'd like, but this is the combination that I liked best. I started with the purple piece of clay, and then I placed the black on top. I gave it a little press, and then I went ahead with my gold sheet, my purple sheet, the turquoise, and then my last layer was the green. Once it was in place, I placed some parchment paper over it and began pressing those layers together. Then I took my clay roller and began to roll the stack back into sheet form. I rolled it a bit by hand, and then I carefully lifted up that sheet and I ran it through my clay machine on a setting number 2. I cut that sheet in half just because it was a little easier for me to work in smaller sections, and I'm making trading coins, so I only need about this much for each. And then I rolled a sheet of black clay, again to a setting 2. I'm adding a little bit of texture to the top, and I'm using my new Peacock collection texture sheet from Create Along. I just pressed it into that green layer and then sort of rolled it on a bit. It doesn't have to be exact because we're going to be slicing through this. It's giving a bit of a Mokume Gane effect. You want to use a really sharp clay blade for the next step and start very carefully with a light touch because it's really easy to remove too many of the layers at once. But gently drag it across the surface and you begin to reveal those layers of color beneath and that layer of sparkle that's on some of those layers. And you can use both the sheet that you're cutting from And if you apply those pieces you cut to the black sheet, you end up with 2 veneers. The effect of the different longer slices really reminds me of sort of an all-over peacock feather pattern. You can see that that little bit of texture we applied causes some of those layers to have a bit of texturing and a bit of jaggedness, which I sort of like the effect of too. Once I had all the slices applied to the black sheet, I very lightly rolled both sheets just to smooth the lines and flatten them out a bit more. Now the next step is optional, but I took that same peacock texture sheet and placed it over the veneer that I made with the slices and added some texture. To highlight that texture just a touch, yet not cover up that color beneath, I used just a touch of gold metallic luster and very, very gently brushed it over the surface to pick up the pattern, yet still let those colors show through. And here you can see the difference, the side that I textured and added that tiny bit of luster versus the plain side, which is untextured, which is still very pretty. Here's a quick example of a way you could make a trading coin or a piece of jewelry. I silk screened my peacock border silk screen using gold paint over purple, and then added half a piece, half a disc of the veneer to the other side. Then I added a little strip of bacon bond along the center seam and added some tiny gold micro beads. This would make a great polymer trading coin just as it is, or you can take it to the next step and make a piece of jewelry with it. After baking is when that layer of color fuse really shows up better, and I wanted to show you that sort of closer up so you could see the difference. Now, the unbaked veneer, you're not really seeing a whole lot of glimmer from that color fuse, but once it's baked, that's when you really can see the beautiful glimmery, shimmery shine that you get from the layer of color fuse that I added to this veneer. I also use my scraps to make some pretty awesome Natasha beads that also have that bit of glimmer and shimmer and sparkle from the color fuse that's incorporated into the clay. And here are the finished jewelry pieces and polymer trading coin that I made with my veneer. Join us on our Polymer Clay Tribe Facebook page for lots of inspiration and to share your work, and to be the first to know about any upcoming polymer trading coin swaps we have. Need more inspiration? Check out the Polymer Clay TV blog for tons of creative ideas.